Let's talk about fonts. I have here my written tutorial on types of fonts and installing them and font programs. We're going to just follow along on this tutorial. It's mostly one where I will just discuss, because there's not a whole lot to show you. I will show you a few things. Which font is the best to use? This is a big question because I see people misusing fonts often in their layouts. As in my tutorial, I have two font samples here in my Photoshop Elements to show you. The first one is Times New Roman, and you will see that Times New Roman has these little hooks on the ends of their letters. You'll see it here on the R, and see that on the top of the lowercase w, and even the E kind of has a swish at the end. Over here you can see it at the end of an S. This is a sample of a serif font. Those little hooks on the end are called serifs. Here is Arial. You can see that it's nice and clean. It doesn't have any of those hooks. Back to my tutorial, it says there's a helpful way to remember which one is sans and which one is just serif. Sans is a French word for without, so those fonts without the little hooks are called sans serif. Now, I did some research on the internet and did find that serif fonts, the ones with the hooks, were generally used in newspapers. The reason for that is they feel that the hooks lead your eye to the next letter. You can kind of see that in this hook on the end of the R, kind of leads you to the O. But with the development of the internet, these fonts are actually harder to read on the internet, and so cleaner fonts are becoming more popular. For me personally, these hooks don't lead my eye. I don't tend to like reading them. I usually stick with the sans serif fonts like Arial for my journaling. Either of these would work for the journaling. It's personal preference, but I would suggest, let me activate my text tool, that what is most important is to look at the space between letters. And if you can see this, where did I find this? There was a good example of two right next to each other. I think it was like these two. You can notice that some of these, here we go, it was these two. These two look very similar in style, but you can see that this one has clearly more space between the letters than this one. This one you can see is tighter, closer. It ends before this one ends. And so if you look for those fonts when you're going through your list that look spaced out between each letter, those are going to be easier to read in journaling. See, if you go up to Arial, you can see the spaces between it are quite far apart, and then there's others that are really close together, like this one here. This one here might be very hard to read. So in some programs you can space the letters out, and Photoshop Elements does not have that option. It does have the option to choose how much space goes between the lines. Most often this is set at auto, but it does not have the kerning between the letters. I think maybe the full version of Photoshop might have that. Let's go back to the tutorial and see where we need to pick up. There are other categories for fonts, such as script fonts. Those aren't really good for journaling, but they're great for titles, as well as grungy fonts. I would not use a grungy font for journaling. It would be very hard to read, but they're really great for titles. And so this link you can go to, and it's going to give you some more examples. These links are really great, and I would recommend going to those and reading them. Where do I put my fonts on my computer hard drive? Now this is a very important question. You can put your fonts in the Windows font folder, but it's not recommended because those are going to be permanently installed, and every single program that uses fonts, when you open it, it's going to bog it down, and it's going to take a long time for those to open. I'm going to go ahead and share with you now, though, how you can do that. I have here, I'm using Vista, so this will give you a view, but I have all of my fonts here in my documents in a separate folder, and here's some of my favorite fonts. I only have 3 in there. I'm going to go to the control panel. And let me make this window a little smaller so that you can see it all. And if I click on Classic View, it's going to change it to look more like the Windows XP version. And you can scroll down and find the fonts file. Now I can take, let me get one of these, one of my favorite fonts, and I'm going to right click and choose Copy. Then I'm going to go over to the Windows font folder and right click and choose Paste, and watch what happens. Okay, that's something that Vista does. That's a little annoying. It asks me to approve it, and everything goes blank. But now you can see it installed. I don't know if you saw that quickly, but it is probably down here at the bottom. No. Let me, not sure where it put it. I could do Edit, Sort by Name, and it should be up at the top. Oh, but the file is in there somewhere. I'm just not sure where the ones with the numbers are being sorted to. You could also go to the File drop-down menu, choose Install New Font, and go to where the fonts are on your hard drive. Make sure that it says Copy Fonts to Font Folder, because otherwise it's going to permanently move it over there, and then you're going to lose your backup stash. And so those are a couple ways that you can permanently install it, and I really wish I could find this because I want to go in there and delete it. I will find that later rather than taking time on this tutorial. Let's go back to the tutorial. But that's not a recommended way to install your fonts in that permanent Windows folder. If you want to put just a few favorite ones that you use all the time in there, you can do that. That won't harm things, but if you take and put a lot of fonts in there, that's really going to cause you problems when you open up your programs. If you stick a lot of fonts in there and you do that by accident, you haven't read this tutorial first saying don't do that, and you aren't sure which ones that you can delete, there are lists, and I don't have Vista on here, but you probably could go to Microsoft.com, type typography and find the list for Vista, but there are certain fonts that need to remain in the Windows font folder, otherwise your programs are going to mess up and not work. Just like there are certain fonts that need to stay in there for certain programs also, and you can go to this link to look at those. So before you begin just mass deleting a lot of fonts out of that folder, it'd be best to check to make sure if that isn't one of those necessary fonts for your programs. Otherwise you may mess up your programs. How do you install fonts? We just did that into the Windows folder. I showed you how to do that. You can also right click and go choose Send To, and then Desktop, create a shortcut, and you'll see here is a shortcut to that file here on my computer. You can then put this directly in the Windows folder, and that would make it easier to see which fonts you can delete later if you choose to delete, because there is a little arrow you'll notice on this icon that designates it as a shortcut to this folder. Of course, you're not going to be able to move these if you're using the shortcut system, because then the shortcut will not work. But this is a great way to know which ones are added and which and can be safely deleted. And I want to mention that I'm not sure where it is in the tutorial. I'm getting out of line on my tutorial, but you can also go to my computer. Let me once again make this smaller so you can see it all. Your C drive, and then find I think it is Program Files, and then go to Common Files and Adobe, and then you're going to see in here a fonts folder. Now these are fonts that came with my Adobe files, my Adobe programs. I have a couple of them, and these only open up in my Adobe programs. They won't open up in Word. And so if you wanted to, you could also just drop some of your favorites into this folder, because for me, a lot of the fonts that I use for titles in my layouts I would never use in a Word document. So that's another suggestion that you can do. Let me read along here. The best way to install fonts is to use a font program. I'm going to go back to this temporary installation in just a moment. A font program, and here's a list of them, is going, and the one I use the most is called the Font Thing, and it's going to be a great way to view to see what all of those fonts look like, and you can temporarily install them from there, or you can permanently install them from there. And if you are just working on a layout and want to temporarily install a certain font and find it, it's just a great way to do that, and the next tutorial is going to show you how to use the Font Thing, and that's how I would recommend installing most of your files. Now, another great way to temporarily install a font is to simply double click on it, and you'll see it brings up this file, and you can see what this font looks like. And If you leave this open and then open your Photoshop Elements or whatever program you are wanting to use it in, even Word, then it's going to show up in the drop-down menu. Because I already have my Photoshop Elements open, well, there's the one I permanently installed. You can see when I permanently installed that in the Windows font folder, it's already showing up in here. But you can, if it doesn't show up in the list right away after you have opened this up and then opened up Photoshop Elements, you can actually manually begin typing it in here, and it will find that for you. This is a great way to do it. You have to leave this open the entire time you're using it. However, you have to pick out your fonts before you open your program, which can sometimes be a pain. I want to also point out that at the time I wrote my tutorial, AC/DC was not commonly used by digital scrapbookers, but it is a great program. It will also view your fonts for you. It's great to use for organizing your fonts, but you can also open it up just like I did here in AC/DC and leave that open after you choose your font, and it works in the same way. You have to leave it open and then open your program. Have I covered everything? How do I deal with renaming fonts to their original name and deleting duplicates? Now, there is a Yahoo group out there, and I will not give you the name for it, but I got involved with it, and it does illegally share thousands of fonts. And so I did get a lot of fonts on my computer before I realized what that group was doing and left the group. I had a bunch of files on my computer that were actually renamed. People will try to redistribute them by renaming them, but they actually have two portions in the properties. Just because you rename the file type, it doesn't rename the font in the properties. So you can find these duplicates by using this program, and it explains here a little bit how you do that, just in case you have gotten duplicates somehow on your computer. Sometimes fonts can be downloaded from more than one font place. If you go to the links section in my on my website, you'll see a list of fonts under the resources, list of font sites. There's a ton of them that you can get out there and download free fonts. I like using dafont.com. That's one of my favorite places. And so if you have any questions about this tutorial, it's really important to understand fonts and how to install them best for your program. And so if you have any questions, please do ask. I will try to help you if you do not understand any of this as I've shared it. Have a great day.